Hey, Empoweristas, it's Alex Wehrley, and I am joined by Lauren Rosenberg. She is a TV producer for Lionsgate. And Lauren, you have such an interesting background. You have made a bunch of reality TV shows. You worked for both of the major agencies. So give us a little bit more insight into how you got to where you are today.
Well, interesting story.
Love stories.
So I had just graduated college, and it had been a couple months, and I hadn't landed a job. I didn't have trouble landing interviews, but landing like the actual job I was finding some trouble with. So I had just graduated from college. I was single, and I was on JDate. And I was talking to, men on JDate, and they were asking me, like, what are you, like, doing with your life? And I would tell them, I'm trying to get a job in the entertainment industry. And then there was this one guy, I believe his name was Jason. I do know his last name, but I won't mention it. But yeah, I actually have never met him, but he submitted my resume to an assistant at Paradigm. And then I had lunch with the assistant, and and I got along, and he thought I would be a good fit for Paradigm, and then I met with HR.
Oh my gosh.
And then HR hired
Dating
me.
sites are for much more than just finding a boyfriend.
Yes.
I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so you worked for Paradigm and then you hopped around a little bit. You told me that you've gotten fired before and then got your job back.
Yes, I've been fired.
Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, I guess the first time I was ever fired, I did talk myself out of it.
Okay, first of all, why were you fired? You seem like you must be like the best employee ever. So what were they thinking?
Well, I think with that instance, I wasn't quite sure what my role was at the company, and I was doing a lot of personal stuff, which is what I signed up for. I signed up to work on an actual show as a researcher. So when I was updating the person I was working for, his like personal contacts, I was like, wait, I was supposed to be like researching for the show. What's going on here?
And you're still young, and you're like,
yes.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yes, like I wanted to work on the actual show. I wanted to like research for the show. So maybe I wasn't putting my best foot forward, admittedly. But then when I was in a room with the showrunner, another producer for the show, and they were trying to fire me, I was like, oh, this is not fair.
This is not going to happen.
This is not going to happen.
You're not going to make that decision. Yeah, I'm going to make that decision. So you talked them out of it.
Yes, I said I'll do a better job.
Okay, so another obstacle that you said you've had to overcome is you have a self-proclaimed bold look and personality, and that hasn't always worked. I love it, by the way.
Thank you.
But that hasn't always worked well for you, especially when you were working for the agencies, right?
Well, yes, I was written up for wearing a turtleneck once that had like a very fashion forward like hole in the back, and I was like, oh, this is a fashion forward Marc Jacobs
scandalous.
Turtleneck. Yes.
A hole in the back.
Yes. And it didn't like show. I don't believe it showed my bra. But anyway, I thought that
someone was just really looking closely. So okay,
yeah,
so
apparently, so I don't like looking cookie cutter. I like being outside the mainstream just because I like embracing what makes me different, and sometimes that comes out in my style. But when you're working at an agency, which is a little bit more cookie cutter in terms of like the style that they want you to wear, I found
it's a little more corporate. So that's a struggle where it's like on one hand, you want to be true to yourself, you want to express your unique personality, but then sometimes you have to honor the workplace environment. How did you find that balance when you were working there?
Well, I mean, eventually when I was working there, how did I find that balance?
Yeah, did you just ignore it? You just did your own thing anyways?
I might have just done my own thing.
Well, you probably realized it wasn't the environment for you. So at what point did you know that it was time to say goodbye to working for agencies and be more creative and work in content creation?
Well, eventually WME made that decision for me, or at least told me, you need to move on. The way
they gave you a little kick.
They're like, is the job market really sucky? Thinking that I was looking. I think my boss at the time thought I was looking, even though I was like going to doctor's appointments.
Your heart wasn't there, clearly.
I suppose it wasn't, but I did, love working at the agencies, and I learned so much, especially working at WME. You're at a level that is uncomparable to working anywhere else. You're working with like the biggest names in the industry. But I didn't know that working in development was actually something that I could do. because I was interviewing at various places, and I would always get the feedback, oh, well, you've never worked in development before. And I didn't think that, you could actually like create a show from scratch, which I can't even believe I didn't think that I could do that, because I was working with these producers all the time. But I guess the actual origin of a show, I didn't quite understand that, TV development executives, especially like on the production company side, were the ones responsible from scratch for creating those shows. But then eventually I decided to go out into the world and get another job post agency when I got that kick. And
now you don't have to worry about how you dress, because it's a more creative industry. Tell me about some of the shows that you've worked on.
Well, I am most proud of Monica the Medium, which is a show on Freeform. It is the only unscripted TV show to go multiple seasons on Freeform, which I'm especially proud of.
Awesome, congrats.
Thank you. And I'm also very proud of the fact that it stars a highly unusual, creative female character, Monica Tenkate, who has a very unusual gift, but she is also a great personality, and she's so down to earth, and everyone can relate to her.
And that's something that's really important to you, is to show more female characters, give them interesting point of views. Why is that so important that we have more of that?
I love putting a spotlight on people that have been oppressed. And through my gender studies classes, I would, study the different waves of feminism and, the transgender community, way before Caitlyn Jenner came out, like decades before that happened. I was studying, these different movements, the gay culture in San Francisco during the 1980s, and was just fascinated by it, and how a lot of people who have been oppressed create the best and most unusual art there is.
And it's so important to have representation for those communities and for everyone to understand those communities too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why you need more people in positions of content creation who are female and who have, maybe they're a white male, but they've still been oppressed in some sort of way, or have a very interesting story to tell. And by pinpointing different characters to tell it, they can also tell their story.
Yeah. And speaking of interesting point of views, you feel like it's really important for all the professionals watching right now to have their own point of view, whether they're a blogger, an entrepreneur, working for somebody else. Why is it so important to have your own point of view? And what is point of view?
Well, a point of view, I guess, is a perspective on the world. And I think for me, a lot of women, and I guess I am guilty of this because I'm also a feminist matchmaker in my as a side hustle that I have. But I think women a lot of times like fall back on the dating a lot in terms of like their perspective, and not like necessarily like hating on men, but there's like so much more to being a woman than dating. Just being informed of what's going on politically and having an opinion. I don't care what your opinion is, but I love hearing when people actually like have a distinct opinion and are informed. And I think
it makes you more interesting for when you go in meetings or do collaborations, and just probably makes you feel more empowered, which is what's most important.
Yes, absolutely. Like when you can back up any argument you have with facts, then you can really have that voice in meetings.
That's another tip that you have for women, is to have a niche or niche, depending on where you're from in the country, is to have an expertise, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that also creates a sense of empowerment for you, because if you're like, I own anything that has to do with science, like I'm always reading about science. So if something comes up in a meeting and you can speak to, a recent discovery when it comes to like space, people will be really impressed. They might be a little weirded out. People are weirded out when I drop,
Space
some
nerd.
NASA, when I drop some NASA knowledge. But
that'd be awesome. I wish I could drop some NASA knowledge.
I wish I could too right now, but I'm drawing a blank.
We won't make you.
But yeah, I think when you're able to, bring to light some interesting factoids to back up your point of view, it could shut a lot of people down that might think differently of you because of how you dress, let's say.
Okay, lastly, what is your definition of empowerment?
Embracing what makes you different.
Ooh, I love it. Short and sweet, so perfect. Lauren, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you for
So
having
fun
me.
getting to know you
I know.
more.
I've gotten to know you so much better as well.
Yay. Okay, well, let us know what your definition of empowerment is using hashtag Empowerista, and we'll show you some social media love.